By a show of hands, I wonder if you would tell me what was the last great business story that you've heard? Did it cause you to take action and support the product, service, or offering the entrepreneur had put forth? Now, in today's digital driven ecosystem of a society in which we live, you may be asking yourself, Kevin, is there still value in the written story for a business? And my answer to you is absolutely. My friends over at Mailchimp tell us that entrepreneurs that engage in storytelling have a 30% higher conversion rate on their sales. It also helps a business get noticed in an additional platform, which, my friends, is another way to get more eyes on the content in which you offer, regardless of the business. My friend Quentin Super works every day to engage the public with entrepreneurial stories which help entrepreneurs get featured and published faster. Super says that connecting with people is all about authenticity and finding a way to humanize them to entice the general public to do business with what they're selling. He's a native and proud Minnesotan who loves to travel and also providing businesses with brand value by elevating their story to the masses. He's also a sales consultant for a construction company, and he says sales and content creation is all about relationship building and finding pain points and adding value to the audience that you're intending to entice. He's written 2 books about his life, and he wants everyone to know that there is still power in the written word and reading a great story in business. And Super took some time out to engage in conversation about content creation and helping businesses elevate their written game to get noticed faster. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. If you're ready, I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program, buddy. And it's always a journalist, buddy. I'm excited to talk to you about telling stories this morning. Great to see you, my friend. And thank you so very much for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Now, Quentin, I know that you write articles to help entrepreneurs get noticed faster, my friend. So I'm wondering if we can start our conversation by you telling me what makes you so fabulous and how you got to where you are today.
For sure. I'll start with, I started this website 7 years ago. I was writing about my life, which was extremely ordinary, Kevin. And of course, no one was reading it. So then I started to figure out, okay, well, it might be more interesting if I tell the story of other people's. And so I just gradually started to interview people, friends, entrepreneurs, business owners, YouTubers, etc. And it just grew. And here we are 4 years later, and I'm still doing it, just trying to bring value to other people.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Quentin, as I know that we both know, a quality interview, when you interview someone, starts by making them authentic and humanizing them, my friend. So I'm curious before we move on, what qualities do you think make a great interview, my friend?
You hit on a really good word there, Kevin. Authenticity. If someone is authentic, if they know who they are, if they're unapologetic about that those are the best interviews. The people who, maybe are a little bit more reluctant to share who they really are, to talk about how they really feel or think about certain matters, those typically aren't the best interviews. So authenticity, to use your word, that makes for the most compelling interview.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Quentin, tell me, what is adding value to a business brand? What does that ultimately mean to you in the long run, my friend?
To me, I think when I think of it, inserting value into a business or a brand, an entrepreneur, someone like yourself, it's telling their story, putting them in front of their audience and letting them know, hey, for example, this is Kevin, this is who he is, this is where he comes from, and this is his unique value proposition to the marketplace. And I do that with an article. Like we're doing a podcast. Podcasts are great, but a podcast might run 60 to 90 minutes. Not everyone has 60 to 90 minutes to learn about you or to learn about me. So by writing an article that's 5 to 7 minutes long, I'm able to capture that story, tell it in a little bit more of an efficient manner than a podcast otherwise would, and that just appeals to a certain demographic of clientele.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Quentin, I also want to know, what do you think is the key to standing out as an entrepreneur when it comes to content creation, my friend? What do you think is the key there?
It's just authenticity again, and it's doing what you want to do and being passionate about it. That isn't to say you have to enjoy every second of it, but I've certainly heard rumors. I've certainly heard people like under the table say, "Hey, Quentin should really do a podcast." Like writing articles on a website, there's all the money, all the views, they're on traditional video, and it's like I agree with that. Like starting a YouTube channel might eventually get me there faster, or I could just spend years trying to get to the same point where I'm already at now. I'm just more interested in writing. I'm interested in telling the story in the written format versus via video. And maybe I'm shooting myself in the foot long term, but I also have this sort of weird confidence that it's like I do believe in what I'm doing, and I think it will ultimately pay off in the way I want it to.
Yeah, absolutely. And Quentin, tell me, why do you think it's important for entrepreneurs or business people to consider hiring people to tell their business story?
Because you need a third party to validate who you are and what you do, right? Like I've written 3 books, Kevin, but they've had nowhere near the reach that, let's say, an interview with you will get, an interview with someone else. In the same sense, the interviews that I do, they get a ton of reach on Facebook, particularly in the local markets, because people want to see and learn about who are these people that I'm doing business with or that I went to high school with, went to college with, etc. So that would be my answer to that.
Yeah, and I know, my friend, that you spend a lot of time teaching entrepreneurs about search engine optimization and writing articles that appeal to that sort of algorithm, my friend. So tell me, why do you think it's important for business people and entrepreneurs to have at least a basic understanding of how SEO works, my friend? Why do you think that's so important?
I think it's important because, again, like the world is only transitioning more and more to the internet. People are getting their information via Google. They're getting it from YouTube, wherever. Like those are just the new ways of doing business. So I actually work with a lot of people, established professionals even, who are in their 40s, their 50s. They can't really grasp the concept of SEO or social media because it's like, well, I'm a handshake type of person. I do business in person. And I think there's a lot of value to that. I also think they're missing out on a target market where, let's say you sell insurance, and typically to get in front of people, you went to BNI meetings, networking meetings, etc. Well, now it's like you got to be able to get on Zoom, or you got to be able to get in front of a potential audience on social media. And I'm just one tool, one avenue for them to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Quentin, tell me, I know that you have a background as a sales consultant, my friend. So how does your sales experience help you in your writing endeavors, my friend?
Well, I got to convince people to come on, right? I got to convince them to pay me to be featured on the platform, right? And so I have to be able to present, hey, here's the value of doing that. Here's why you should work with me, etc. So that's where sales comes in on a more localized level. Like if I interview a real estate agent a insurance agent, whomever, someone in that sphere, I can build a relationship so that, the sales I do here locally, like I'm a sales consultant for a construction company, the two can merge. And so I can create value for them that they can reciprocate to me and potentially give me leads, for construction deals and things like that. So it's sort of, it does a lot of different things for me, this website content creation.
Yeah, absolutely. And Quentin, as you know, I do some work as a professional speaker, my friend. And when you close a speaking deal, my friend, it's all about adding value and solving pain points, my friend. So tell me, from your perspective, what does the concept of adding value look like to you, my friend?
Well, Kevin, first and foremost, you're a great speaker, and I think you epitomize adding value, meaning like you're just trying to make the world a better place. So you didn't have to reach out to me. We didn't have to connect. We didn't have to do something like this. But in your own way, you're trying to make the world a bit of a better place. That's the same thing that I'm trying to do. Like, I'm not Superman. I don't have these like otherworldly talents or gifts. I'm just simply trying to like, hey, use my writing talents, my marketing talents to give people a platform to share their story so that hopefully they can make a little bit of money in turn, but also just grow their brand and make them more recognizable to the people in their market.
Yeah, and Quentin, I'm wondering, how do you think entrepreneurs can work to tell a more inclusive story that attracts a more diverse audience? What do you think are the keys and keys to getting that done successfully?
When you say inclusive, what do you mean specifically by that?
So that they can attract a more diverse audience and try to cast as wide of a net of an audience as possible.
Okay. No, I appreciate you explaining that. That's a good question. It's hard because, if we talk about authenticity, right, and just being true to who you are, telling your story in a really original manner, that's going to turn some people away. And so I've always found it difficult to try to cater a story to an audience. Like, in my opinion, you just have to be who you are. You have to tell the story, write the story you want to write, and people will either gravitate toward that or they won't. Trying to appeal to them, that's hard to do. I don't think I have the answer to that, to be honest.
Yeah, so let me ask you this in a different way then, my friend. How do you go about your process in terms of the questions you ask yourself or you ask potential clients before you agree to work with them?
Well, a lot of it is a financial element, right? So if they want to work with me and if they're willing to pay, that's always a good thing. But I don't want to highlight anyone who is purporting negativity. I don't want to put anyone on my platform who is hyper political. Not because I think politics are bad or that they don't have any value to the society at large, but I'm a positive guy. Like, negativity kills me. It drains me, Kevin. For me, it's like I just want to work with good people. Again, you don't have to be a rock star. You don't have to be this otherworldly talent. Just be yourself. And that's typically who I relate to best are people who know themselves. They understand, like, hey, I'm not perfect. Just like me, Quentin, I'm not perfect. But there isn't like a thorough vetting process. I'm not extremely picky. It's just, again, like you see a lot of people on the internet, particularly on YouTube, social media, who they just try to generate controversy for the sake of clicks. That's probably not someone who I'm going to ideally work with.
Yeah, and my friend, I'm curious, in the work that you do, what fascinates you the most about the psychology of people and sort of how they operate on a continual basis? What fascinates you the most about the psychology of people?
Specifically with the people I work with, Kevin, I realized about 6 months ago, I had this revelation where almost 90% of the people who I interview in high school, they were like, I would term them in-betweeners, meaning they weren't like extremely unpopular and no one liked them, but they also weren't like very popular and, had a bunch of attention. They were in the middle. They were just people who they tried their best to make friends, to relate to people. And in many ways, it didn't really work out. But again, it wasn't like they had no friends. And I'm kind of like that, where like I wasn't popular in high school. I didn't really have a whole lot going on. I was just trying to figure life out. And ironically, again, about 90% of the people I talk to, they're the same way. And I think my theory behind that is it makes for a really good entrepreneur if you didn't have a lot of success in high school, but let's say you weren't like completely stomped on. People didn't completely overlook you. Like, so you had a little bit of validation. Like, that's just one revelation psychologically I came to.
Yeah, absolutely. And Quentin, I know in the work that you do, either as a writer or a sales consultant, my friend, it requires you to be creative by nature. So where does your creative spirit or knack come from, my friend? Where did you get your creativity from?
It's a very good question. I think some of it is innate, meaning I was just born with it. I also think a lot of it was just refined over the years. Like when I was a kid, I would read the sports section of the newspaper every single day. Like we're talking religiously, meaning if it was late because it was snowing and like it didn't arrive promptly at 6:30 a.m., like I would start to freak out and get anxiety to the point where it's like, hey, mom, dad, we have to go up to the local gas station and buy the newspaper. So like I just built a vocabulary by reading a lot. I embraced a lot of different types of text in that sense. And then when I got into college, also, I just, you just continue to read and read and read. That's basically all I did for my major. And so, it's learning from other people, having the humility to say, like, hey, I might have done X, Y, and Z, but there's still so much I can get better at. There's a lot of people I can learn from. Yeah, the creativity is almost collaborative in that sense because it's me interpreting other people's work and my own life, but then also, again, having the humility to learn from others.
Yeah, absolutely. And Quentin, as you mentioned, you've written a couple of books, my friend. So tell me about the books that you've written and the message behind them, my friend.
I think to be politically correct, they are coming of age books, Kevin. They are, me trying to find myself. Um, what they really are is probably me just, finding my voice in many ways. Like they're adventure books. So it's me and my buddies. Let's say the first two books, the first one, my buddy and I, we rode our bike to Canada in spring break. And, I live in Minnesota. It's very cold in the winter. Not a good idea to ride your bicycle all the way up to Canada in March. But we did that. So I tell that story. Second book is about like my buddy and I, after grad school, we biked out to the East Coast to Portland, Maine by way of New York City. And, there's a lot of debauchery in that book. I was coming out of a relationship. I was drinking a lot of Grey Goose. I was on Tinder a lot. Like you can use your imagination. So that's kind of book number two. And then book three, I lived in China for a year. And as you could imagine, like I had some fun over there. So I would say coming of age, finding my voice. Those are what those books are about.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. And I'm always fascinated to ask people that I interview, Quentin, what is their urgency to sort of seize the opportunities that they're given in life? So, what would be your message about the urgency or the importance to seize opportunities in life?
What else are you going to do? Right? I say that rhetorically, but it's for me, it's like if I wasn't trying to seize opportunities, I'd just be sitting on my couch, watching Netflix, maybe going to the gym. I don't want to live that life. I think there's a lot that can be done and experienced in this world, and life is very, very short. Like I'm 31 now, but it just feels like a blur from 21 to 31, and I can only imagine that is going to progress and continue to be just whirlwind as I get older. So, yeah, man, like what else are you going to do? It's like life is short. Take advantage of it.
Quentin, you're exactly right because I started this podcast in the height of COVID, my friend, because I told myself that there was only so much Netflix I could watch in a day, right?
100%. And Netflix is they don't have that many good shows anymore, unfortunately.
Well, if you need a reason to veg and kill time, that's what Netflix is for now, right? No, I'm kidding. But
Absolutely.
Quentin, I'm fascinated to ask you this question because I've never been to Minnesota, and I probably won't go in the winter just because of the weather. But tell me, what do you think makes someone quintessentially Minnesota? Minnesota. What makes someone know that someone's quintessentially from Minnesota, my friend?
Ooh. Well, first and foremost, you're not alone in saying I'm never going to go to Minnesota, particularly in the winter. Like this place sucks in the winter, and I highly recommend not coming here. The summer, a little bit of a different story. Totally, you should come on over. What are we as Minnesotans? We're very nice. We're stereotypically passive aggressive, so we're not going to tell you how we feel. I've spent a lot of time in different parts of the world. I maybe am not the best Minnesotan. I can be a little bit direct in the way I communicate, but I'm still a nice guy at heart. I was born in a suburb of Minneapolis, and I'm a nice guy. I hate to say nice guy because that makes me cringe, but yeah, I have good intentions.
Well, yeah, and I know that you're a avid traveler, my friend. So tell me about some of your favorite places to travel and some of your favorite travel memories, my friend.
Sure. I mean, I would say in recent years, like I've been really progressing in terms of becoming a very fluent Spanish speaker, and so I love going to South America. The culture is awesome. The food is good. Cost of living is low. People are very friendly and warm. Did I say the weather is fantastic? I don't know, but yeah, that's what I like to do in recent years is go somewhere warm and just challenge myself. Like, there's no vacation for me, Kevin. I'm not going somewhere sitting on a beach drinking mojitos. When I travel, like I want to get better at my craft, both as a journalist and a Spanish speaker. So that's kind of my motivation these days to travel.
Yeah, and you bring up journalism, so I'm gonna ask you this because I also originally went to school to become a sports reporter, Quentin, and I'm curious, how do you think journalism has sort of evolved for the good or for the bad in recent years? Because everyone has access to internet and a smartphone these days. So tell me, how do you think we can protect the integrity of journalism, my friend?
Oof, that's another great question, Kevin. I don't know if we can because journalism has been replaced by capitalism, meaning it's about clicks, it's about attention, it's about revenue. The art of journalism, if you will, has sort of been disbanded and forgotten because people simply want to make money. And I don't blame them. Like, money is important. Money equals status, power, opportunities, etc. But to me, like, I'm trying to be the antithesis of that to the best of my abilities. I'm not trying to sell out just to make a buck. I'm trying to provide real value, tell real stories, highlight real people. And truthfully, there might come a day where money takes precedence over that. I hope that day doesn't come. But if I'm being truly honest, like, if someone's like, hey, I don't know, if Pfizer hit me up and was like, I'll pay you $1 million to write like a really nice piece about us, some propaganda, I might have to consider that because $1 million, that's a lot of money, Kevin. So I hope that day doesn't come. I hope I can continue to build organically and just create really good content that's wholesome, but I also recognize reality. So only the future can decide that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And Quentin, before I say goodbye to you, my friend, I want to have a little bit of fun with you this morning. So I know that Minnesota is home to the Mall of America, my friend. So if I told you I was going to lock you inside the Mall of America for 24 hours, and I would give you an unlimited budget, my friend, how would you spend the money?
Whew, man, that's tough. I don't own any things, and I don't mean that literally, but more figuratively. Like my TV, I bought it 10 years ago, Kevin. I still have it, same one from college. Like the couch I watch Netflix on is a gift from my cousin when she didn't want it anymore. I think the most expensive thing I own outside of my 2012 Corolla is my bed. I don't own things, man. I buy used MacBooks. I have an iPad that work gives me. I like to spend my money on investing in the website and traveling. Those are kind of my things. So to more directly answer your question, maybe I'd try to like do something philanthropic with it and buy things for people in need. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's ask you a travel question, my friend. If you had to create a travel sort of bucket list of the five top places that you haven't traveled to yet, but you want to, what makes the list, my friend?
I think I've been everywhere I want to go. All those places I dreamed of as a kid, I've been fortunate enough to go. If I had to choose five places, though, just off the top of my head, excuse me, I would go Australia, South Africa, maybe Greece. We'll throw that in there. Did I say New Zealand? That gives us four, and then maybe Mother Russia. That sounds kind of interesting. I know things there are a little bit contentious at the moment, but maybe one day that'll become more peaceful.
Yeah, and I've got two questions left for you, and I know that you're an adventurous guy, my friend. So if I told you that you had the opportunity to give a guided tour to anywhere in the world to 1,000 people, where am I sending the plane tickets to, my friend? Where do you want other people to explore or discover, my friend? What would be your answer there?
I'd say I'd say Beijing, China, of all places, because the media's portrayal of China is, hey, it's a communist place, people there are terrible, whatever. But I lived in Beijing for a year, and it was nothing but nice people, kind-hearted people, a lot of fun to be had in that city. Maybe too much fun, for someone like me, who I think I was 25, 26 when I went over there. But I'd love to bring a lot of people there just so that they could, at least particularly Americans, because they have a negative perception of what China is, but what it really is a beautiful place with beautiful people.
Yeah, and I forgot to ask you this question, so I'm going to ask it to you now, my friend. Studies have shown if you tell a story as an entrepreneur, your conversion rate goes up by as much as 30%, my friend. So tell me the power of telling a story as an entrepreneur and the benefits that come with that, my friend. What are your thoughts there?
People buy from people they know, like, and trust. There's no better way to build trust than to be vulnerable, be authentic, and tell your true story. The people who, let's say, experience initial success in business but then flame out, typically they're only in it for themselves. They're not in it for other people. So to go back to that A word, authenticity, that's the biggest thing. If you can be authentic and relate to people and actually give a damn about them, you'll make some money.
Yeah, absolutely. And my final question for you this morning, Quentin, has to do with your legacy, my friend. How do you want your individual, personal, and professional legacy to be defined, my friend?
Another stumper, Kevin. I appreciate that, but I would say, in many ways, I don't even know if it's up to me, right? Like, ironically, I write books about my life and I control the narrative to a degree. But if I ever catch a wind of clout, I'm sure the media, whomever, like, they'll just kind of craft their own narrative. So I can only control what I can control. Obviously, I would love the legacy to be a positive one, but in many ways, I don't know if that's up to me.
Yeah, so I'll just follow up with this, and then I'll ask you how people can get in contact with you, my friend. Uh, what do you think it means, or what is your definition of controlling a narrative, my friend?
Well, it's quite literally. I mean, I think of like Valuetainment with Patrick Bet David. Do you know who those guys are by chance?
I do, yeah.
So PBD, I think they are, they're right wing leaning podcasts. I think that'd be fair to say. And when you listen to them, you can tell they're trying to control the narrative. Like, for example, when they say, like, hey, Trump is going to win if he doesn't do this, like, they're kind of speaking into existence a lot of different things. And because they produce so much content, they are in a way controlling the narrative. Like, I control the narrative of the subjects that I interview. But I don't have like nefarious intentions. I don't have anything politically I'm trying to gain. I'm just trying to help them out. So in many ways, like, you control this narrative, right? Like us speaking today, like, you could cut this up and chop it up in a way that might make me look good or bad, or you can just let it run, with no edits. But that's what controlling the narrative is to me. And that all goes back to the individual, the one with the power, the agency. They kind of control that.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, my friend, tell me if people want to get connected with you, what's the best way they can do that?
They can Google my name, Quentin Super. Quentin is spelled like Quentin Tarantino, and Super is pretty phonetic, pretty just like it sounds. But yeah, always have to connect on Instagram, Facebook, whatever platform. And yeah, I love connecting and talking to people.
Well, fantastic, my friend. You're really providing value to people that want their stories out there in the greater universe, my friend. I want to thank you for believing in the power of storytelling and for agreeing to engage in conversation with me this morning. It's most appreciated.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me on. And yeah, we'll have to do something, on my end. I would love to have you on the platform, Kevin. So.